I think I've gotten the moniker of a channel guy, and by the way, I'm very proud to be a channel guy, but it wasn't always like that. People ask me, "What am I most proud of in my career?" I'll tell you right now, it's the 23, 24 people that have worked with me that are now running their own channels, and people that just come up and they're just gonna dust off this playbook that they've used for 10 or 15 years. So if I was a partner sitting on the other side of the table, it would be insulting. He said, "You can buy a lot of things, but you can't buy time."
Hey, Channel Insiders. Welcome back to Channel Insider Partner POV. I'm your host, Katie Bavoso, and my guest today has been working in the channel for about as long as it's existed. I'm talking about Frank Rauch, the storied channel chief, lauded for his ability to build valuable and lasting partnerships and partner programs. Frank announced his retirement in January 2025, but he's not slowing down. In this interview, Frank shares with me his foundation for a great partner program and what he says others often get wrong. Plus, he also gives his thoughts on the evolving channel chief role and the legacy he's leaving behind. I'm now joined by a man who goes by many names. Most recently, he was known as the global channel chief at Cato Networks. He's also been called a channel visionary, a legend, and the GOAT of the channel. That is Frank Rauch. Hi, Frank. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Katie, thank you so much for having me.
It is awesome to see you. I so appreciate the time because what I hear is that you've been busier than ever. You've retired, I think, by this week, like just about a month ago, you announced your retirement, and you've told me that more people have wanted to talk to you than ever before. More people have been blowing up your phone than ever before. You've been so busy. So, what has it just been like in the month since officially retiring or announcing that retirement?
I think people are curious. I mean, basically, I've been running hard for 40 years,
Mhm.
since 1984. Okay. And I think many, many people don't believe I can do it. They think I'm going to get sucked back in to this channel world, and I am holding on with my fingertips to be able to stay retired.
Why is that? Do you think that's because the channel needs you or because you're addicted to the game? What is that?
Now, you know what? You know what? The channel does not need me. The channel really doesn't need me. I mean, people ask me, what am I most proud of in my career? I'll tell you right now, it's the 23, 24 people that have worked for me, not worked for me, worked with me, that are now running their own channels. So hopefully we all feel that we have somewhat of an obligation because as you can tell by the new channel chief listings and whatever you want to read, but there's a lot more gray hair than there is black brown hair.
Yeah, I've heard that. I have heard there's a certain generation that is retiring right now, and with it is going a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise. And that's both from what I've heard from the technical side of it all the way through the sales relationships. So
Yeah.
it's interesting how that's going to shift in the future.
No, and it is interesting because I talked to Edison Perez. I'm going to be talking to Cheryl Cook tomorrow, Peter LaRock, and all people that have made the decision to be able to retire over the last 12 months. I think we all feel the same way.
Did you all call each other? Did you all call and say like this is going to be the year?
We're yeah, we're just wagering on who gets sucked back in first.
By the way, sir, congratulations on your Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl. I meant to kick this off with that congratulations. Are you still riding that high?
I am still riding that high. I was at the parade with literally a million other Philadelphians. So cool. I got to be there in 2018
Ugh,
against the game against the Patriots. I thought it wouldn't get any better than that. Do I regret not going to New Orleans? Maybe a little.
maybe a little bit. I don't did
Well,
you
I'm on this retirement budget now.
by the way, Massachusetts fan here. We all got to get to a dynasty at some point.
Just
Everybody
remember,
deserves
you only have to remember 2 numbers, 41 to 33.
it. That's a good point. That's a good point. I'll be thinking about that when I cry myself to sleep tonight, but I digress. So So, Frank, why don't we start off with giving you an introduction for the folks that maybe are new to the channel space or have been living under a rock and don't quite recognize you or know why we're here today. As I mentioned in the beginning, you were most recently the global channel chief over at Cato Networks. It's a SASE network security vendor out of Israel. But like you said, have had a 4 decade long career within the channel. You have been at Checkpoint, VMware, HP, Compaq. You have been across the board. Many of those positions have been channel related. And of course, as you've grown in your career, it's
Mhm.
become much more the defining point. I first have to ask you, with all of that said, when did you realize that your career was going to be steeped in the IT channel specifically? And what drew you in and made you stay?
Ah, it's a very good question. So you get known for what you've done in the industry. I think I've gotten the moniker of a channel guy, and by the way, I'm very proud to be a channel guy. But it wasn't always like that. It was selling mainframe mini computers to the casinos in Atlantic City. It was running half of the country. At one point for HP, what was HP then? HP now. And it was just working in strategy and planning with people like Mark Hurd, Marius Haas, etc. And after that, Jack Novia said to me, he said, I felt so bad about that strategy and planning thing. I'll give you any job I can give you. He said, well, this channel gig sounds unbelievable. I mean, come on, great dinners, Super Bowls, golf. Why wouldn't I want to do that? And that's how it all started.
I am curious to know because of how far your career spans. You did go from selling hardware to kind of switching up and going with the virtualization route and the software
Mhm.
route and the SASE route. What was that like for you when you think back to that midpoint in your career where you had to switch up the channel relationships and the partnerships that you were building from the hardware to something a little less tangible? Was that difficult for you, or was it a challenge at the time that you kind of found the secret key to?
No, it wasn't really difficult at all. So you have to imagine, you go to family weddings, family reunions, sometimes family funerals. So people used to ask me, who do you work for? I used to say HP. They said they make great printers. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. Then fast forward into working for VMware. Now you're going to the same events. You do what? We virtualize things. We make things go away. Oh, you're like it's like magic. Not quite, but it's something like that. No, it really wasn't, because if you think about it, when I was with HPA, I mean, a lot of the people that were mentioned in a few articles that were published, Joe Koenig, being a great example, the president of WWT. I mean, we went the whole gamut. We went everything from servers to storage to, just anything you could think of, devices to virtualization to security, etc. So people like WWT, people I knew from CDW, we've all been along that same trail. My point is, as I was transitioning, as the company I worked for was transitioning from hardware to software to SaaS, etc., so were the partners.
I mean, you dropped in Joe from WWT there, having told an outlet, having told CRN. He had wonderful things to say about you. He said that
I don't know why, but they caught him on a good day.
they caught him on a good day. I mean, but for real, Frank, he talked about you being able to grow their company, Worldwide Technology, over $1 billion through the channel. That is no small potato. So I want to talk about what your formula is when it comes to building a great partner program, a great partner network, and being a true global channel chief. When you look at the layout today of what other companies are doing, do you kind of redirect them in your head and go, they should be doing this? Just talk to me what that formula looks like.
Well, I think a WWT example is a good example. So what Joe didn't say in that article is that sitting on the left of me was Carl Eschenbach, and sitting on the right of me was Pat Gelsinger when we were having that meeting with him and Jim Kavanaugh and others to be able to discuss this hyper growth plan for WWT. My point in saying that is not to name drop. It's really to be able to say it takes that type of support from your organization to be able to move mountains, which is exactly what we did in that case.
And so important. And I love that since the top of this interview, you've been shifting the direction of saying, there were these folks that had to be involved to help this. There were these folks that I trained that then took off in their own right to be able to do this. And I
Mhm.
think that says a lot about you and the career that you've had, in which you
Thank you.
always redirect to your success to other people, which is incredible. Going off of that, I think about the win-win partnership sort of
Mhm.
approach that you always took to your partnerships. Would you mind breaking that down for me, if you wouldn't mind, and talking about what that looks like and how you were able to do that? Because in my opinion, it sounds incredibly simple, right? It sounds like if somebody gets something that they want, everybody is happy. But when you talk about a win-win partnership, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that I get asked a lot. Yeah, I think a win-win partnership starts way, way behind the partnership. I think it becomes a mutual understanding of what you need to accomplish as a manufacturer or whatever the case may be, and what they need to be able to accomplish. Because the big mistake that I think many people make, including myself, because I made it early in my career, is to be able to categorize partners, look at them through the same lens, and not understand the detail of exactly what's motivating them. Now it's a little bit simpler. Now, basically I have people that are saying, "Hey, I want to get out of the business. I want to sell to somebody. It's going to be private equity, or we want to do roll-ups, or we want to expand internationally." And it's a little bit more explicit. Back then, it was a little bit tougher. And the more you listened, the more you customize your strategy, the more you follow those idiosyncrasies that are different. Two things happen. One, your strategy becomes much more effective. And two, the buy in is much faster because the partner actually feels like they've been heard. You've taken the time to really understand what makes one partner different than the other, even though there's this, I want to use the political term, but I will. There's this word salad for a challenge sheet that says WWTCDWE plus Presidio, whatever those names are. And all of a sudden, it's this common grouping of these large partners with the assumption that they're all the same. They're not.
I think that's really important to make sure that you're simplifying it like that and really looking at them separately. I want to put you on the spot for a minute. Is there an instance in your career that you can point to in which you say, I really say this is the moment where you saw the success of that model? Is there one that comes to mind that you might be able to speak to?
There's a number of them. I think WWT, we're not gonna dwell on that one, is a great example. I think, when E Plus was transitioning between Phil Norton Senior and Mark Maron. That was another one because that business was changing. It was changing a lot. I think the various iterations of CDW, because I mean, you can look at it and you can look at five different companies that were in that CDW mix, and again, there's some very very large partners, but if you look at the companies that came together to form Optiv, for example. Two very, very different worlds coming together. Same thing with Fishnet, et cetera. So it happens in boutique partners, security partners, large partners, small partners, but you just can't assume that they're motivated by the same thing, that the same approach is going to work. And people that just come up and they're just going to dust off this playbook that they've used for 10 or 15 years. I mean, it's first of all, it's ingenuous. And second of all, I guess if I was a partner sitting on the other side of the table, it would be insulting.
You don't have to name drop in this case at all. But when you look at other partner programs out there, is there anything you could point to where you say that's the playbook, that is the dusty playbook, and you should definitely try to innovate from there? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, there's unfortunately many examples. Yeah, basically, it's a traditional bronze, silver, gold program.
The tiering.
There's a program that basically has 5 different things you can do with MDF, and you better fit into one of them. And then there's the opposite side of it. There's the totally overly engineered, overly complex programs that honestly, when you run it through an analytic model, it sounds great. When you try to explain it to somebody in the field, they're totally lost.
I think that's probably the litmus test for that is when you're in the field at an event and somebody says, "Why should I consider this partner program?" And if you can't
Mhm.
explain it in a way that knocks their socks off right there, you probably missed the goal. I wouldn't want to walk away confused from a meeting or having somebody walk away from a meeting confused by me. I don't think that helps anybody.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Some of my peers, who I love dearly, truly think that their companies are the center of the universe. And when they come in, they feel how can you not understand why we're doing this? And, the partner is sitting there with, 10 different security solutions, 20 different hardware solutions. He knows what they have on the software side or they have on the device side. And it's not their obligation to be able to figure out what your program's about. And, it really does need to be simple. And it does need to be somewhat flexible to be able to appeal to the different models.
Let's talk about the evolving role of the channel chief, which is
Mm,
what you've done for the better part of your career, being known as the channel chief, even though that position kind of runs by a bunch of names these days. For
yes,
you, yeah, when you look at where we are right now as an industry, and honestly, as a human people,
mhm,
we're talking we have AI involved in almost everything right now, where
mhm,
people are trying to push it into that. We have consolidation, we have budget cuts, and we also have a world of marketplaces, cloud
mhm.
marketplaces, and evolving business models when it comes to the channel. Where does the channel chief sit in all that, and what is the value that they still bring to the table in today's industry?
Well, as you correctly pointed out, the roles evolve.
Mm.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, basically, you are a manager of chaos and entertainment. In the early days of the channel, things were going to happen whether you wanted them to happen or not. Some of them good, some bad. Some of them we will never talk about again. And you were kind of a budget manager, and you were a resource manager. There wasn't anything really that strategic about being a channel chief back in the early days. Well, the world evolves and it became much more operational, much more analytical. Therefore, it was an entirely different skill set that was needed to be able to approach that. Then the technologies, I mean, I'm not going to say a server or storage or a Microsoft product or whatever wasn't that complicated, but it's not nearly as complicated as it is today. With AI is a great example. Certainly, you mentioned SASE when you mentioned Cato. That's a totally different example too. You mentioned marketplaces and what somebody like Ruba is dealing with AWS. That's a world unto itself. You look at a product like Red Hat when I thought VMware was hard to explain. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting examples out there.
So, talk to me about what is one thing or a series of things that you're noticing impacting the channel chief role the most right now. Is there anything you can point to and saying this is having the biggest impact on what you did?
I'll go back to the statement I made a little while ago. I think it's all about context. I really do. You can walk into various companies, and many people. It looks like I've been through a lot of organizations, but a lot of those organizations have been acquired by other
Mm.
organizations, and that's how they've kind of been. But there are people that have had 8 or 9 channel jobs with 8 or 9 totally discrete companies right now. I don't think you can walk in a door and you can basically say, "This is how we did it," or "This is how it works." Things like that. I think the challenge is to be able to understand a business model, to be able to understand a technology fit, to be able to understand whether you're selling a managed service, whether you're selling a software offering, a SaaS offering, or something that bridges the gaps between a number of different categories. And then to be able to go back and say, okay, let's listen to the partners. Why do they want this product? What's the demand trigger? How does the buyer buy this product? And how does the seller sell this product? And how do we track along to be able to put together a program that motivates the various inflection points, educates the partner, educates the customer, and drives the result that we need? And then to be able to, it used to be so much simpler because what you were doing is you were kind of, you worked for a VP. Normally that VP was the VP of sales. Now you're accountable to the CFO, you're accountable to the COO, et cetera, because everybody wants to understand how those gears churn, how they get the optimized result, and how they're not overspending in categories where they really don't to. Or not have to. It's a complicated job right now.
Hmm. What's the next iteration of the channel chief? Do you see a change?
Retire. Yeah, we talked about this a couple of days ago, but I think you look like you look at somebody like Stephanie Shira, who has a PhD over in Red Hat, and that's a totally different background. We I mentioned Rubo Borno, totally different background, great background. So you're seeing this evolution, this career trail, career path, just coming from totally different areas right now, and you're having totally different people, and it's great because diversity is often thought of as gender and race, whatever the case may be, but it's also the way people think, and it's the backgrounds that people come from. So I think it's going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to become more analytical. It's going to continue to be a bigger part of the business, and a more relevant part of the business, just simply because the world is more complex.
Mm.
Partners have the ability to specialize. No company is ever going to have enough headcount to be able to cover the market, and they're going to need a channel, but they're going to need somebody that can orchestrate all those different dimensions.
What can vendors do to enable their channel chief to be built into the next Frank Rauch?
Thanks. I don't think that should be their aspiration, by the way. But, uh, to be able to support, to be able to support the child chief, first of all.
Mm.
What does that mean? Does it mean more MDF? Probably not. What it really means is, do you have the right operations people? Do you have the right operational background to be successful? Do you have the right dashboards? Do you have the ability to be able to hire the right people? Do you have the recruitment in place to be able to get those people, et cetera? So that's the big support thing. The other thing is really transparency, because the channel is a funny place. It gets praised more than it should,
Hmm.
and it gets criticized more than it should too. Mainly because sometimes the floor tiles move underneath the channel chief. And different people have different priorities, and because it's this mystical, funny expense item that nobody really understands, that transparency is so important. It really is. Because if somebody understands exactly what the clear objectives are, and by the way, it's far from you need to grow 35% a year. I mean, it's the next 5 levels of detail beyond that.
That's a great point. A number is just a number if you don't know how to support it from basic instructions. I appreciate that a lot for sure. A little bit back, you mentioned the customer, and I am curious to know is there what role, if any, does the end customer play in the channel chief position nowadays? Like, how close would you sit to them, and how much should other channel chiefs watching even consider the end customer in their everyday?
A lot. And I'll give you the obvious answer. They're the source of the money.
Yeah.
basically the companies we talked about and the partners we talked about don't exist without the customer. So it really is important, but it becomes much more important for a channel chief to be part of a customer advisory board. To be able to understand exactly the way the customers are viewing the products, the company, the channel that the company has. All that stuff is really, really important, and it's important for a couple different reasons. One, because you can empathize with the partner in dealing with those customer demands. Two, as I mentioned, this whole buyer's journey concept in terms of why the customer becomes interested in the product, why an opportunity develops because of that, how you move an opportunity along the opportunity cycle, why you're winning, why you're losing is all customer dependent. It has very little to do with the partner, to be honest with you. But if you can orchestrate your program to step along that cycle, you're going to be successful.
Really good points there, Frank, and thank you for going over that. I do want to make sure that I ask a question that I'm sure you've been asked about 300,000 times, but I'll be the 300,001. You worked at VMware for many years. I'd love to hear your thoughts on its recently implemented invite only partner program. Do you see slash agree with the vision there? And is it a method that you think will catch on with other vendors?
It, it's a really interesting and difficult question at the same time. So, first of all, I applaud Octon and the work that he and his team has done. For a number of different reasons. I mean, the market valuation, the numbers, the cause and effect of what they've been able to do in terms of driving efficiency through that company is pretty remarkable. Uh, I think you need to be careful though. And I'm going to draw the same analogy that I drew a few minutes ago. The challenge chief that comes in and dusts off the playbook, and here we go again, replay, replay, replay. You know, uh, Broadcom has acquired a lot of different companies. VMware is arguably on the more complex side of what they've acquired. And, I'm not gonna argue with their strategy again because of the results, but I would probably move a little bit more slowly, than, to be able to understand the cause and effect of different types of partners being let go, because it's not just a numbers game. You can't, to me, you can't just take that numerical bar and just say the partner's doing less than this, and we're gonna cut the partner. Um, because that partner might have a specialty, especially, if it's in some of the more complicated VMware technology. Maybe they came from one of the companies that VMware acquired. So there's unique knowledge, there's unique skill sets, and it's not just as fine as a cut line to be able to determine that. So I don't know whether that makes sense. I know a lot of people that are still over there. I wish them all the luck in the world. They seem to be doing great right now, and I hope they continue to.
A question as we start to wrap up here that is going through my mind is you've recently worked for Cato Networks, as we've mentioned several times. They're an Israeli based company. Now
Mhm.
that we're seeing movement over in Israel right now, the geopolitical positions are shifting. We won't get into that. This is
Mhm.
not that kind of podcast. But with all that said, are we going to see, in your prediction, any sort of new technology, new announcements coming out of those Israeli companies over the next year? Do you think that it's going to be a big year for those companies based over there?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really big year for the companies. Basically the people, I have the ultimate respect for the people of Israel. I've got to know them, I've got to know them, I've got to know their families, I've got to know their geography over the last 6 or 7 years. A lot of the companies I'm talking to now that might need a little bit of help are Israeli based. So, I hope the political environment continues to get better. It continues to stabilize, and it looks like it's going to do that. But getting back at technology, if you look at not only Cato, by the way, incredible results. Hats off to Shlomo Kramer and his team. For over 250 million ARR right now, 40 some percentage growth year over year. That is absolutely incredible, and I'm proud to have been a part of that. But if you look at Sneak, if you look at Wiz, and some of the other companies, I mean, I don't know where I saw the graphic, but I think literally out of the 5 most likely IPOs, 4 of them are Israeli right now
Mm.
that are gonna come sooner than later. So it's just it's a nation of smart people, it's a nation of hardworking people, and it's a nation, more importantly, of people that know how to build things.
Who are your rising stars in the channel chief role, Frank? When you think about the people that I should be talking to, who do you think about?
This is hard. So, it's interesting because when you asked me that question in the prep, I thought of people earlier in career, people that haven't been doing this for a long time, and then I said to myself, well, maybe it's more the people that haven't been doing this for a long time. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, if you look at I mentioned Stephanie as an example. If you look at Craig Weinstein, if you look at somebody like Denise Millard, who has a long, I mean, just so accomplished career with EMC and Dell, but relatively new to being that channel chief. So I would say, I would look at Denise and I'd say she's absolutely a rising star. Then I look at people that are the next generation, already very, very accomplished. One of them used to work for me, Addie Finch. I think she's got the world in front of her, and I would put another one that used to work for me, who works for the company we just talked about, Broadcom, Tara Fine, in exactly the same category. So there's so many people with bright eyes, and they have bright eyes because they're anticipating the future, either because they're in a new role and they're excited about being in a new role, or they're poised to be able to take the next step.
We'll be watching them. Now everybody that's hearing this is like, "Oh my goodness." I have to make sure I live
Yeah,
up to
well,
Frank's
that
expectations.
creates another problem for me. Thank you.
One that
That's a
you don't
big
need to worry
creative problem.
about. You're retired. You're like, "Hey, my hands are off this."
Yeah, it's true. I'm not meddling.
As far as the wisdom or advice that you would impart on the next generation of channel chiefs, is there anything that you would tell them to do the best they can?
Operate with context, operate with intent. Do everything with intent. So regardless of what it is, what channel activity, understand there needs to be a result. You need to be pointed toward that result. Operate with emotional intelligence and emotional awareness, meaning that don't expect everybody to understand what you do,
Hmm.
and don't think you've got it. You absolutely got it, because the minute you think you've got it, you're going to get it. Let's put it that way. Take advantage of all the tools that are out there. I mean, if I look at the PRM systems, if I look at the ERP, customer data that's available, partner data that's available right now, the Claris of the world, the Avisos of the world, the tools that are available. Take advantage of it, and I would also say take care of your people too, because um, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, or more than that, basically the hottest salespeople were the people that were the most recruited. I can guarantee you that the recruiters are focusing it as much, or if not more, on the channel right now. So listen to them, hug them, and make sure you keep them.
Wonderful words of wisdom. And for you, Frank, what's next? I know that you're operating a bit in a kind of a contract role with Cato at the moment, but you've gotten 1,000 calls, so I'm sure. So what's on your mind? What do you think is going to be next while still being in a pseudo retired role?
So I don't think Shlomo or Carl or anybody else needs a lot of help. So I don't think I don't think I'm gonna be spending too many I don't think I'm gonna be spending too many hours on that. Yeah, and so first of all, I've always tried to be a give back individual. So, Drexel University School of Entrepreneurship, Holy Ghost Prep are passions of mine, and I spend a lot of time with the students in each school. You mentioned about the next generation, the rising stars. Club Next is a wonderful organization to be able to unify that community of people that want to be the next channel chief, and we try to make sure that they understand the why and try to equip them with the tools and the knowledge that we've learned to be able to do that. And then, on the less philanthropic side, there's a lot of private equity companies. There's a lot of venture capital companies that I've talked to over the years. Now, many of them have said, now that you have more time and now that you're not committed to a certain company, kind of the handcuffs are off and you can do what you want. You can really help us. So I'm looking at that. And I have two sons. One's in the industry, one's not in the industry. And I want to be able to help them. And I have two beautiful granddaughters as well.
Oh my goodness. That's beautiful. I knew I have to say I the last things that I read was that that second granddaughter was not here just yet. Was she a recent addition?
She's a recent addition. She's probably about a month old now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you retired at the perfect time. I understand now.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be able to do it. And I would give everybody the advice that many people gave me, including Jerry Brown. So unfortunately, Jerry is no longer with us, but he did say to me, he said, "You can buy a lot of things, but you can't buy time."
Very sobering. It's a real
Yeah.
thing. I have to say, congratulations on just an incredible 4 decades and for all the things that we've seen and haven't seen, all the late nights and everything that you've done for the channel and the people
Well,
here.
never.
Thank you.
No,
Never on the
no,
late
no,
nights.
no. No, and first of all, thank you for giving me a platform to more or less thank a lot of the people that were involved in this journey. And I know it just sounds melancholy. I know it sounds maybe unrealistic, if you want a legacy, the people that follow you are the most important legacy.
While you're on the platform, is there anyone else that you would personally like to give a message to or anything you would like to say? I think that's really important for me to be able to have you do that. If there's anything else you would like to say, any people you'd like to recognize,
Certainly, all the people that have been on the teams that I've worked for, I would start with that, and all the people that gave me opportunities. People like Dave Booth, Jack Novia, Carl Eschenbach, even Mark Hurd that gave me opportunities. And some of the other people I had the pleasure to be able to work with, including Gil Schwed, including Shlomo Kramer, all good stuff. And just that support group that's been around me for the last 40 years. So I wish them continued success and want to tell them that my door is always open and I'll drop a call on anybody that wants a little bit of advice or a little bit of help.
Frank, thank you for your time today. Congratulations and best of luck to you. I hope that with all the work that you plan on doing in retirement, you do get a few rounds of golf in too.
Yes, Edison and I are planning on doing a retiree tournament. So we will absolutely do that. I'm going to have a retirement party very shortly at my son's bar in New Hope, and I will invite the community, and hopefully, I'll see a lot of people there.
I'm so excited for you. Best of luck. Thank you so much, Frank.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much to Frank for joining me today, and thanks to you for joining us. You can check out all episodes of Channel Insider Partner POV on channelinsider.com or on youtube.com/channelinsider_news and trends. You can also listen to us as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to never miss an episode. If you want to follow us on social media, come connect with us on LinkedIn and X at Channel Insider or with me at Katie Bavoso. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Bavoso, and I'll see you next time.